They climbed the rail, tied a line, and stepped aboard an ocean that had been holding its breath. The deck was wet with spray. No voices answered. No footsteps echoed below. The brigantine crew found the Mary Celeste under partial sail and making slow way, but without a soul to steer her. It was early December, 1872. The ship had sailed from New York weeks earlier, bound for Genoa, carrying a cargo of industrial alcohol and a small complement, a veteran master, his wife and young daughter, and a handful of hands. On paper, it was an ordinary commercial passage. The vessel itself was sound. The weather that morning was moderate for the mid-Atlantic. That normality is the first contrast to note. Boarding parties moved through familiar spaces. The galley showed no sign of a struggle. Personal effects were where one might expect them. Clothing and papers remained in cabins. The cargo hatches were largely intact. Where the evidence began to contradict itself was immediate and tangible. The ship's log and official papers were gone. The captain's chronometer was missing from its locker. One small lifeboat was absent. A quantity of seawater had collected in the hold. The main hatch had been slung open. The bell was still aboard. The binnacle light was out. A painted message would be appropriate here, but there was none. There were no outward signs of violence or boarding. There was no blood. There was no wreckage. Accounts from the salvage crew and the subsequent inquiry are consistent about certain discrepancies and inconsistent on others. Witnesses reported a table set for a meal in the saloon. Others did not. Some described a disordered rig. Others observed that the sails were trimmed as if for steady running. The financial value of the cargo ensured a brisk salvage claim and a formal hearing. Yet the documents collected thereaward did not assemble into a coherent cause. Statements conflicted in small ways that matter. Times, distances, the condition of the bilges. These variances are the texture of the mystery. Possible explanations were proposed almost immediately and have been recycled for decades. An explosion of alcohol fumes was plausible given the cargo. Such an event could prompt an orderly abandonment. A sudden localized storm or a waterspout might have convinced the captain that temporary evacuation was safer than staying aboard. Piracy and mutiny were considered, as were navigational error and suicide. Each hypothesis accounts for fragments of the scene while leaving other pieces misplaced. An explosion explains missing papers and a hasty departure, but not the absence of wreckage or distress signals. A life-saving evacuation explains the missing boat, but not why competent mariners would abandon charts and a valuable cargo. Piracy would normally leave violence behind. None settles the set of facts without introducing new contradictions. Investigations were technical, legal, and public. They produced ledger entries, witness interrogations, and press conjecture. They produced no definitive verdict. Decades later, the Mary Celeste's own fate, sold, renamed, and eventually wrecked, closed that vessel's log. But it did not close the original file. The smallest recorded detail persists. A single lifeboat, gone, and no course. No note and no returned voice to explain why a capable captain chose to leave a seaworthy ship with his family aboard. The record remains open,